There seems to be two distinctive camps. Those that hate cyclists and cyclists. The other day I posted a comment on my Facebook page because I nearly had a head-on with a car, and it was on this road. And in fact, I'm going to show you in a moment exactly where on this road. So it's 7:30 in the morning. It's the first day back at school for a lot of kids, so there's a bit of activity around. And I come around this corner and quite happily, and then I face up to the next corner and I come around here, and right here there's a car on the wrong side of the road. And can you guess why? Because we have laws in Tasmania that allow a car to cross over a solid white line or a double solid white line if it's safe to do so, to provide 1.5 meters of clearance for a cyclist. Now look at this road, 1.5 meters. Like, let's imagine the cyclist is on this thing, no shoulder, narrow road, corners, blind corners. There's going to be at least 600-700 millimeters, so it nearly puts the middle of the lane where his shoulders are. Then you add 1.5 meters, that car is well and truly on this side of the road. And I can almost guarantee you what happened back there. In fact, I'm going to turn around. I'm going to ride that section of road, and I'll tell you my bloody... look, here we go. I'll tell you my theory on exactly what happened there. There was 3 cyclists actually, and they were all spread out, and it was the lead cyclist that this car was overtaking, and they would have been stuck behind these guys coming up here. Now 1.5 meters, even on a motorcycle, puts me on the wrong side of the road. So that would have been stuck behind those guys because they couldn't get around them. There would have been other traffic coming, whatever, all the way up this hill. Probably getting pretty bloody frustrated by the time they got to the top of the hill. Now, the visibility is not real good on this corner. You crash it, come down here, you got a bike there, he can't go anywhere, and there's Armco railing. Can't see around that corner very well. But right here, he's thinking, I'm going for it, and he hops out. Now, by this time, we're on the downhill stretch. So his little shaved legs on that bicycle are doing 10 to the dozen. And that car probably underestimated how long it was going to take him to get around that bike, because the bloody bike wants to take off and think, oh, I'm smart now, I can keep up with the traffic and do 60 kilometres an hour down this hill. You know, this is a completely inappropriate road for a cyclist to be riding on, in my view. So that little shaved leg muppet, we call them mammals here in Australia, and mammal is an acronym for middle-aged men in lycra, also often referred to as road lice. Now, as a motorcyclist, we do get some privileges where you know, we've got free parking around the city, we're allowed to filter through the traffic, which, you know, other motorists may not seem as fair. But my God, I tell you what, we're certainly not, generally speaking, at least speaking for myself, I don't feel that we are self-entitled. And we pay registration and taxes. The registration on this motorcycle in Tasmania is as expensive as the registration on my car. It's nearly $600 a year. Now, the push bike riders, and they don't like being called bicycle riders, push bike riders, they want to be called cyclists. So I actually make a deliberate attempt to not call them cyclists, conscious decision to not call them cyclists. I call them bicycle riders. So the bicycle riders get all up in arms, they go, we pay Rego, I've got a Subaru Forester and I pay, there's one there, I pay registration on it. Yeah, but you're not paying the registration on the vehicle that you're occupying the road on when you're on a cycle. I don't care. So they lobby to have bloody bicycle lanes and that put in. I don't want to have my registration spent on bicycle lanes. I want my registration, the money from my registration, put to, I'll tell you what I want them to do. I want them to fix this road. So this is the pass road. I travel this road every day, and it's like the main street of Tripoli. There are so many potholes and damages to the bitumen that you cannot possibly remember where they all are. Right there, big extrusion, big hole there, patches of bloody crap along here. I came up here one day and there's a piece that's pushed up in the middle of the road, right, no, not that bit there, there's another one further up there, where I ended up with a front wheel on one side of the extrusion, oh Christ, and a back wheel on the other side of the extruded piece of bitumen, and the bloody bike near flicked out from underneath me. Fix that. Don't worry about these bloody idiots. You're trespassers in the motorist domain, and there'll never be any argument that can convince me anything else. When I was in high school, would have been about, I think it was about 1979, I would have been about 14 years old. My mate, Philip Eschler, and I decided to take our bicycles and ride them to the Gold Coast. I mean, I went everywhere on a push bike when I was a kid. Well, there were a lot fewer cars on the road, and you know, I'm not going to go into all the semantics, but essentially, as a kid in Australia in the 70s, what that represented to me was freedom. It was the way that I could get around. I could move about. I could go to my mate's place. I could go and do and see things on my bike, on my push bike. But the minute I got a driver's license, it was parked in the back of the shed, and I never looked back. Why can't you do that? There's plenty of other ways to stay fit. Anyway, back to the story. So Phil and I decided we're going to ride down to the Gold Coast. This is from Beenleigh in southeast Queensland, and it's a fair distance. So we got on what was the Pacific Highway at the time. This was before the M1 motorway was built, so it was a dual carriageway both directions. Not much of a shoulder, if any, and I think the speed limit at the time was 100 kilometres per hour. Well, I can tell you now, by the time I'd got to Yatala, which was only a couple of kilometres up the road, I already knew that it was a bad idea. I was trespassing in the motorist domain. I knew it. and I've never done it since. I was 14 years old, and I had enough brains to understand that what I was doing was inherently dangerous, and I was likely going to get killed. Now, did I blame the cars? No. Going back a few years ago, I was going camping on Moreton Island. I used to do quite a lot of beach camping in Queensland, and days before we went, there was a woman eaten by a bull shark just off North Stradbroke Island, which this is the next island down from Moreton. And the reason she was eaten by a bull shark was she was swimming at dusk where the fishing trawlers come in with a dog. Does anyone blame the shark? Really? So how's it any different when you're on a road like that, and there's many of them in Tasmania, and you get clipped by a car? How is it the driver's fault? You're trespassing in his domain, you self-entitled pricks. Now, just this week, New South Wales experienced its first cycle death for the year, which surprises me actually. It was cyclists versus truck, and sadly, and it is terribly sad, don't think for 1 minute that I want to see people get hurt. That poor man is dead, his family have to now live with that forever, and the poor driver of that truck also now needs to live with that forever. This is a public road. It is designed for motor vehicles. You can't maintain speed, and that is the inherent issue, it's that closing speed. And then you bring in the laws of physics, and your mass is going to be no match for the mass of any of these two things in front of me. So what's the answer? I don't know. Smarter men than me have tried. Essentially, my belief is that instead of legislating, introducing legislation that puts every other single road user at risk, like being able to cross white lines and have a head-on with a Ducati. How about we just legislate you the hell off the road? I mean, we have a token bike path here through this section of Cambridge. Like I said, I would much prefer they spent the money fixing the bloody roads that we have now so they don't rattle your vehicles to pieces than accommodating and pandering to a self-entitled bunch of bicycle riders who give no stuffs about any other road user. So I think, you know, typically this video will probably induce quite a bit of debate down in the comments section, and those that passionately defend the cyclists, and those who passionately defend my point of view, which I don't think that you're a legitimate road user. It's always risky, you know, when you go and express your opinions on something as controversial as this, but you know, it is what it is. I stand by my convictions. I'm not trying to backpedal here or anything, pardon the pun, but it's a bit of a case of, I don't think that there is a place for cyclists on these roads. Convince me otherwise. Yeah, that's what it comes down to. I can present to you a myriad of arguments for example, if this was a workplace, and let's not mince words here, this is a workplace, and you know, quite often during the week I have to go and pick up things from suppliers and what have you, and a lot of the traffic on the road are trucks and buses and guys like me that are out doing things for work. We're on the clock. We don't have time to accommodate your selfish needs. We just need to get from A to B, which is what these roads are designed for. I mean, I would love for the whole road to be my one big racetrack, but I can't do that. In fact, when I was still riding dirt bikes, every time I'd drive past a golf course, all golf courses should be, but imagine how the golfers would feel if they're teeing up. They're teeing up and I'm on the back wheel screaming up the fairway. I wouldn't like that very much. Well, it's no different. You don't belong. You belong on a velodrome or something, or if you're going to ride roads, go and ride roads that can accommodate it, but don't expect me to pay for it. Should there be a registration cost? This is another argument. You should pay rego. Well, look, you know, I don't think they should, because the second that you do, you've legitimised it. And imagine how self-entitled they would be if they felt that they actually had, they were legitimised. They're bad enough now. So no, I don't believe they should pay a registration fee. I do believe they should have identification tags, because there's a lot of outcry from the community now, because these guys have been known to cause accidents. For example, that one with me last week, if I hadn't been able to straighten the bike up and near put it in the gravel to avoid hitting that car, I would have been in an accident, and that bike rider could have just ridden off into the sunset, and there would have been no way of identifying who he was. Did he cause it? Now there's, you know, then you get down to that splitting of hairs thing. Yes, he did, because he held the car up and the legislation allowed that car to overtake him, but there is a caveat to that, in that it says if safe to do so. But if you're coming down this hill, you think you're going to leave yourself enough room, and that bicycle rider decides to pump his little shaved legs up to the 60 kilometres an hour, all of a sudden that car is in a far more precarious position than what he probably anticipated when he went to initially overtake. So there would definitely be arguably a contributing factor from the bicycle rider, but he could just ride off into the sunset. So yes, there should be some form of identification, so they can be reported for their stupidity to the public, by the public, just as, you know, they do to us as motorcyclists. But if you want to get fit riding bikes, you can do it without even moving in a gymnasium. What if I told you that? Or you can buy one of those exercise bikes and do it at home. And if you're hell-bent on taking in the scenery, go and do it on a road where it's already accommodated. But like I said, don't expect me to pay for any more. I don't want to tip into that. I want them to fix the goddamn roads we've got. Sorry about that, I do go off on tangents. Getting back to the workplace comment, if it was a workplace and you wanted to introduce this activity into the workplace, and you had to go through all of the gates and checks and balances with the occupational health and safety team, and put together a risk assessment and look at the likelihood versus consequences and all the rest of it, the bloody bike would never ever, it would never get off the ground. You'd never get that through a standard workplace occupational health and safety. Oh, Christ, see what I mean? You'd never get that through, through a standard workplace procedure. It would just, I would look at how they could mitigate all the risk, and the risk would be to take everything else off the road. So common sense would suggest that we should just remove the risk. Now, while you can't remove all risks, because then I can hear the arguments coming, oh yes, but if you took all trucks off the road, and if you took, don't give me the bullshit. If you can't maintain speed, fix these roads that we've got now. If you can't keep up with the traffic, that should be rule number one. And if you're the reason why you're keeping up with the traffic, i.e. you're the cause for the reduction in speed, then that's not a legitimate argument either. As far as I'm concerned, all arguments fall flat on the ground, with the exception of the perception that it's a clean, green mode of transport, so therefore it's suicide to say that we're not going to support it in terms of a government. It's not a clean and green. There's a reasonable sized carbon footprint to build a bicycle, and all the clobber that you wear. And the inefficiency that you introduce to every other single road user's vehicle. So piss off. Or convince me otherwise. Either way, I don't care. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment, and I'll catch you next time. Maybe. On Andy's Motorcycle Obsessions. Bye for now.